Greetings, everyone. My name is... No, I'm not. No. Okay, let's try this again. Greetings, everyone, and welcome back to Drac and Shadow Vlogs, where we're taking on the fourth iteration of the DC Cinematic Universe. It just barely came out last weekend, and we are talking about Wonder Woman herself, a subject of controversy for many, many years. And so, first of all, welcome everybody to Drac and Shadow Vlogs. And people might notice that ever since, I think it was Guardians Volume 2, we've changed the format a little bit. Instead of spoiling the movie and going into... we will go into spoilers. I'm not going to restrict us from that. But instead of going through the movie plot point by plot point, we're just going to go into our opinions, kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So, if you guys have already seen Wonder Woman, then I think you're going to be perfectly fine. But if you haven't, maybe pause the video at least for now, and I promise you we'll wait for at least 5 seconds until you hit the pause button, and then you're good. Okay, 5 seconds have passed. Okay. All right, so we're just going to bounce right into Wonder Woman, but I think the best way to start things out, because a lot of the DC Cinematic Universe movies have not actually been done by us. We've done them as Geek News group reviews, or in some cases, I don't know, we didn't even do one for Man of Steel, because we weren't around at that point. Yeah. So let's just go over quickly our opinions of the 3 movies that have come to this point, okay? So, and I'm not saying, go deep, all right? I'm saying, very brief opinions on, first of all, Man of Steel.
Man of Steel, it's okay. I've only really... I've never...
Really, this is the most divisive of the DC Cinematic Universe movies.
I've only kind of watched it in passing on TV. I don't think I've ever truly invested myself in it, but from what I've seen, it's okay.
Yeah, I'll be honest, when I saw it, I didn't have too many problems with it. I literally looked at it as a good action flick. But the problem is that when I came home, and I realized all of the problems that they actually created with Superman, that's where I fell into the I don't like Man of Steel camp. Okay, and here's the thing: people might remember if you've been following the Geek News podcast for a while, so much so when you followed it when it was just me, you'll notice that I did give it some praise, and I still stand by some of it. I do have a lot of the issues with the storyline, but Henry Cavill as Clark Kent / Superman,
I like him.
I don't have an issue. I think, honestly, the biggest problem that I think a lot of people have with him, I honestly think if he had better writing, it would be fixed, kind of thing. But I remember, I gave it praise because it was a good action flick, but now just looking back on it, I mean, it had some good moments to it, but I'm in the I don't like it camp. I can't give it any leeway on that. To me, it just proves my problem with heroes or superhero movies today, where a hero has to be more of an anti-hero than a legitimate good guy. And I've even said numerous times, even on our vlogs, this movie, specifically, Captain America did what Man of Steel could not. Captain America Civil War did what Batman v Superman could not. And I stand by that. So, speaking of Batman v Superman, in case people haven't seen the Geek News group review that we did, where are you standing on Batman v Superman the Supreme Court case of Batman v Superman in regards to the dawn of justice?
Well, I guess I must rule in favor of, not Batman nor Superman here. I guess you could say case dismissed in this case, because that movie is So
instead of being a best friend forever, you'd be a best foe forever?
Yes. All right. It's a 3-hour-long doldrums of a movie. And I think I kind of have the same reaction, what you just said with Man of Steel. Walked away, it was kind of okay, kind of an okay action piece, but then after a while the problems sink in, and I don't like Batman v Superman.
Mm-hmm. I will say that I'm in your camp. I did not like it, but I will say that there are little tiny Easter eggs here and there that can be appreciated. First of all, now that we've seen more trailers of them and things like that, I'm really beginning to appreciate Ben Affleck as Batman. Okay, which is funny because I was one of the people who was criticizing Ben Affleck as Batman.
Really, you were not in the Batfleck camp?
I was not in the Batfleck camp. No, I did not like the pick just because, unfortunately, nothing against you, Ben, but first of all, I didn't have a problem with Daredevil, but everybody had a problem with Daredevil. So I literally looked at the casting as going, oh, great, here comes the controversy. And on top of that, look, Ben, I love you, but you're not Thor, okay? You've got a little bit of a gut. You're a little bit of a director, and I'm okay with that, okay? And originally, when I thought of Bruce Wayne, I did not think of that. And so I actually kind of looked at it and went, you are going to be a little out of shape. And I'd much rather... And here's the actual thought that I had. I don't think you would be good on screen. I think you should direct it. And I stick by that. I still think he should have directed because he is a DC fan, and I think he would have done good justice with it. Mm-hmm. Regards to the Dawn of Justice.
Still, you don't think he would get in shape for the movie?
I didn't, but thankfully he did. But I also just wasn't sure if he could pull off Bruce Wayne. Well, no, my problem was I thought he could pull off Bruce Wayne. I didn't know if he could pull off Batman.
Right.
Especially with people saying, like, oh, crap, you're going to go Christian Bale. And actually, the fact that they added voice modulation in there, I thought that was a nice little touch. So, like I said, there's an Easter egg in there. I like Ben Affleck. I like Wonder Woman, which is funny because for the last 2 years before that movie even came out, I was against the casting. I was against the attitude that I think Gal took a lot. Thankfully, I was wrong, and you know what? I ate a little bit of crow on that one. So, like I said, there are little Easter eggs here and there in Batman v Superman that are enjoyable, but unfortunately, the rest of it is just utter shite. Mm-hmm. And then finally, Suicide Squad.
I enjoyed Suicide Squad more than everybody else did. More than anyone else in the Geek News crew, for sure. I actually liked the movie. You know, I gave my few problems that I had with it, but you know what? That was way better, miles better than Batman v Superman. I said it in one of our own reviews that.
Well, yeah.
I think when I can't remember.
When you're comparing it to Batman v Superman, I'm in your camp. But
yeah, because what are you gonna do? It's a DCU movie, so you know, it's just sort of. I said this before. It's like Batman v Superman. That was 3 hours of absolute insanity and boredom. Yeah. And Suicide Squad was 2 hours of entertainment.
Actually, you want to know what's really funny? So a couple of months ago, we reviewed Ghost in the Shell. Mm-hmm. What was my prime complaint with Ghost in the Shell? They tried to recreate scenes in the movie, and they were more interested in recreating those scenes than that. That's Batman v Superman. They were more interested in recreating The Dark Knight Returns and recreating the death of Superman than they were actually creating a plot.
Yes.
So
you know, I can't help but think Suicide Squad might be a bit mired only because of the behind-the-scenes controversy that surrounded it with the reshoots and the recuts and the whole controversy that the trailer was completely cut from its own cloth and not actual representation of the movie.
Yeah.
You know, fair enough. I get it. It's not exactly the director's vision here, but I still found it enjoyable with, you know, even though we had to stoop to cliche Sky Portal with Enchantress.
Yes. So I have a love-hate relationship with Suicide Squad. And I need to explain this a little bit. One, I don't like the team they picked. I think that they got a couple of really good ones in there, but then you have outliers like Croc. I don't like Croc, which basically means that if he was not in it, there would be no Oscar, according to the internet anyway. I did not like how Captain Boomerang was utilized. I had issues with the team that they created, especially since it was more towards. They were more interested in saying that Batman caught a majority of them than actually showing, you know, maybe the Flash caught one, maybe Aquaman caught one. So I had that issue. Jared Leto Joker, I still don't like. I can't get behind it. It's now that I look back on it, it's actually a little pretentious compared to other Joker performances. And so that's obviously my beef. Contrary, though, a lot of people that I've ever talked to, they all have the problem with the Enchantress as the villain, and would prefer, like, Suicide Squad start out how Suicide Squad would, which is, like, drop them in a war zone and tell them to go retrieve something. I didn't have a problem with the Enchantress as the villain. Mm-hmm. I thought she was classic cliche DC villain, and I was okay with it. That wasn't my issue. I didn't have a problem with the big portal in the sky, because, well, it made sense with the Enchantress. So I didn't have that problem as a beef. My problem is that you put them... and actually I think the Nostalgia Critic covered it best, you wrote a hero movie for non-heroes. You expect them to fall into the exact same tropes that a hero would, and I'm sorry, but they're villains.
So, that's kind of the point of the Suicide Squad, isn't it?
Yeah, but have you seen the Nostalgia Critic video?
No.
Okay. He actually makes a really good argument. Like, because they have that moment where they go to the bar, and they're all, like, disheartened, they're all basically pussing out of the whole thing. But if you think about it, supervillains are the most motivated individuals there ever are in a story. Because they know what they want.
Yeah.
And so at that point, these guys should be way more motivated than they are, if for no other reason than to get the collar off of themselves so they can go back out and raise some hell. Kind of thing. So that already has a bit of an issue, and on top of that, just...
well, we've already established you don't like Will Smith.
No, I stick by that. I really do believe that there are other people who could have played Deadshot better than him. In fact, I would even dare argue that the person who played him in Arrow did a better performance than Will Smith did. Margot Robbie, a lot of people think I have a problem with her as Harley. I think she did fine. I really think Harley was shoehorned into this one so that they could shoehorn in the Joker, and then we got Jared Leto as the Joker, and yeah, that's kind of my issue. So, I guess in the long run, I think it's okay. I think it's okay. I think it's got some good things. I think it's got some bad things. But according to internet consciousness, 3 strikes, you should be out. Because that's the way people are looking at it.
But can I say...
Well, Man of Steel is 50-50, so we'll at least give them that credit. Man of Steel is 50-50. Batman v Superman is what, 20% on Rotten Tomatoes? And I think Suicide Squad is a little bit less than that. Mm-hmm. So Wonder Woman was not walking into good terms here.
But can I say one more thing regarding Suicide Squad?
Sure.
I absolutely reveled when Suicide Squad won Best Makeup. I'm like, oh yes, suck it!
Alright.
I know, that was so fun to be on Twitter that night. Just like, oh
my gosh!
Suck it to you haters!
And I just...
the fanboy tears. I got to...
so you got to be a supervillain that night. That's what you got. Okay.
I bathed in the fanboy tears.
And I can get behind that. But my issue with the Best Makeup Oscar is that it went up against Star Trek Beyond. And I'm not saying Suicide Squad's makeup was bad. I don't think it was. Especially when you look into the scope of how much makeup actually went into it. Like, the biggest credit the internet gives is Croc. Mm-hmm. But if you look at it, like, the tattoos on the Enchantress, that had to be a makeup job. Diablo, that had to be makeup.
Yeah.
Because I don't think the guy actually tattooed his entire face.
Jared Leto's makeup.
Harley's makeup. So a lot of that stuff is justified. But I love the fact that people literally bounced Croc. And I'm going to be honest, Star Trek Beyond was right there with them. And the best makeup that came out of that movie was the villain. And if I dare say, he had a better makeup job than Croc.
I thought Star Trek was going to win, especially...
I did too! I really did!
Because, especially when they were...
Star Trek had the cred! I thought they were going to walk away with it.
Especially when they were announcing the awards and they're going through the nominees.
Yeah!
They did show a quick reel of putting that makeup on in Star Trek, and
do we know who played Croc?
I can't remember.
So, I mean, he was going up against Idris Elba.
I can't remember.
And so, yeah, so there we go. And yes, you got to have your moment of
yes.
I still hold true to my thought of it's still a charity Oscar because they don't want the superhero movies complaining. Because I still hold true to my whole concept. Like, I really do believe if Captain America has done an awesome job, he should be in the contention for Best Picture and all that. And here's the thing, people have actually asked me, so you would have no problem if there were 14 films up for Best Picture? No. Because when I grew up, that's exactly what happened. There was at most there was 10. They kept it to a limit of 10. And so I don't have an issue with that because if it did well, if it did well financially, that doesn't hold it back. And if there were good performances that were brought in there was great cinematography, then let's give them that. Let's give them that accolade. That's what the Oscars are meant to be. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, Hollywood doesn't look at it that way because, oh my gosh, how dare you make money? There you go. So anyway, we
got off on
sidetracked so hard. This might just be a third video. On to Wonder Woman. So, as we've kind of pointed out, DC was not exactly in the best batting average right now. At very most, they've been able to do a 50-50 movie, and the other two were flops. So Wonder Woman was not walking into the best situation. Okay?
Especially with how many problems. This movie was in development hell for quite a while.
Yep.
It went through, 3-4 directors before Patty Jenkins?
I think it was 2 or 3. Something like that. But, you're right. It went through numerous writers, it went through numerous directors, producers. And here's the thing, as much as people are going to claim that I'm going to make this argument, I can't, because Zack Snyder actually was part of the production process. He is credited for being a writer on it, or for doing the story, and also for being one of the producers. Mm-hmm. So he was part of that, but I'm still going to make the argument that the person in the director's chair is what dictates what happens in the film. Okay? Yeah. They're the ones in charge. They're the ones that are dictating how that cinematography is going to be working, how that editing is going to be done. And in this case, it wasn't Zack. It was Patty Jenkins. And so, just quick overview so that people know where we're coming from. Did you like or hate Wonder Woman?
I loved it, actually. I was nervous too, because the last bit of major news, so to speak, that we heard, it was more just hearsay and more rumors. But there was the alleged open letter to Warner Brothers execs saying the movie's a complete mess and it's gonna flop, and then all of us on the bottom are gonna take the fall for it.
And what was it? The early screenings, I think, that went to Europe were saying it was a mess. And
I don't know about early screenings.
They didn't even get a finished product kind of thing. But they were even saying it was a mess and there were so many problems with it.
I don't remember screening reports. I just remember the alleged open letter that came out that was criticizing the whole business decisions at Warner Brothers and kind of.
And here's the thing: it does feel like there were Warner Brothers decisions made in this movie, but I would actually dare say that they do not detract as much from this movie as they have from Suicide Squad, from Batman v Superman. Yeah. There are a lot of points where it does feel like corporate mandate was to have this scene in there, and I don't think it hurt it as much as it did those other two movies. And I'm in the same camp. I think it was good, but here's my deal. I also think that Captain America: The First Avenger was good, contrary to a lot of people who think that's actually the weakest of the Marvel line. And this movie feels very much like Captain America: The First Avenger to me. And so, where some people are going to come off the premise that I'm insulting it, I'm not, because I like the movie. I think they're both are awesome, and what the decisions that they made with it are great. Especially since in this case, we're basically establishing a immortality concept with Diana, so you had to explain why there was this picture from the 40s or not even the 40s, the teens, the 19 teens,
yeah,
and the early 20s kind of thing. So you had to establish that, and I don't think that they did a bad job there. And again, I don't think that First Avenger is bad. So this is not an insult. I think it's right on par with it, and I think it did great. But let's go ahead and get into the stuff we liked about Wonder Woman.
Gal Gadot, she's really good. I didn't have a problem with her in Batman v Superman. That's essentially the first introduction to her, but I didn't have a problem with her. And here's the thing,
neither did I.
Yeah, she's I think fine for the role. I know. It's obviously she's not a professional actress who's been working. She's only had a handful of movie roles for a while, but
yeah.
But she definitely is physically up to the chops. She did serve in the Israeli army, which was pretty awesome to think about, and so she's obviously got the physical and the discipline up to snuff here, and I think acting wise, she's continuing to improve across these different films here.
I think she actually had the most promise, because I think they had the same workout, or the same trainer that Man of Steel and Batman v Superman did. So she's probably the most, because Henry Cavill and Amy Adams both, because I think Amy Adams actually did stuff with him too. They both, like Henry Cavill admitted, it was grueling. So if anybody was really built to go through that process, it would be Gal.
Yeah. Because she's actually been in the military, so there you go.
Well, but here's the thing. We've been told it's worse than the military. I would actually say because she's been in Israeli military.
Oh, yeah.
That's what gives her that.
Yeah. That's really something to think about. So that was a pretty interesting choice and a smart choice at that to cast it.
And I'm not saying like anti-USA, people. I'm not. Don't do that in the comments.
Yeah, we're not going to get into the whole Israel debate here, though.
Yeah.
Oh, fun fact, this movie's now banned in Syria because of Gal Gadot.
I did not know that. That's great. Syria.
Not Syria, Lebanon. Sorry.
Or Lebanon, yeah. Okay, that makes more sense.
Yeah, because, Syria's in the middle of a war right now. I don't think they're worried about what movies are coming out.
No,
so.
But Lebanon makes sense.
Yeah, so...
It only makes sense that the Arab world would hate this Wonder Woman.
Of course, because it's got an Israeli woman.
Yes.
So there you go. But I liked Gal Gadot's Wonder Woman. She's really good in the role. And I think we're seeing more and more her coming into her being as a potential leading lady in acting. I don't know. We'll have to see where she could go in, say, the post-DC years when eventually she walks away from all of this. But
yeah.
That's
when she starts telling the horror stories. Yeah.
Well, that's a distant memory from now. But so she's good. Chris Pine was really good in the role, too. Because we kind of, he does remind me of Steve Rogers. He does remind me of Captain America. The guy who wants to do the right thing but knows the hardships and the sacrifices that need to be made.
I'd say he's more Bucky.
More Bucky?
I'd say he's more Bucky because here's the thing. Again, I'm comparing it to the first Avenger, and it's around that time, Steve Rogers was very much a naive ideologue. Like, he wanted to be the hero so that the bullies could not win, kind of thing. And that's actually where I would say Wonder Woman stands. But Bucky, who got captured, who knew the harshness of war, that's where I think Steve Trevor is, aka Chris Pine.
Right.
Is that, he's seen the harshness of war and he just doesn't want to repeat it. So, I'm not saying you're wrong. My analysis would go towards him being more like Bucky.
Right.
Kind of thing. Because he knows the harshness of war and Steve hadn't known that until much, much later.
Right.
Because remember, he was off selling war bonds. So aside from Gal Gadot's performance, you also like Chris Pine.
Yes. The rest of the cast is fine, too.
Mm-hmm.
And the action sequences are really great. They're probably some of the finest action scenes I've seen in a while in a movie like this.
Mm-hmm.
Especially when Wonder Woman stands up, middle of the war zone, middle of no man's land, and charges the front.
Yeah.
That was a great scene. I loved that. It was amazing.
Oh, I'm just not interrupting you. That's
right.
The thing.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's the end of my thoughts, but overall, I think it's a very solid movie.
Well, I think we know your favorite shot of the movie now. It is that one, as far as cinematography.
Yeah, just great scenes all around. Patty Jenkins, this is the first movie I've ever seen by her. I don't know any of her work, actually.
Nope, we found out she had done nothing but TV work up until this point.
Right, so...
This was her film directorial debut.
So, really impressive for someone who's really only worked in TV and never on a huge budget movie like this. But really impressive stuff we got going here. I mean, everything is just well shot, well designed, that I really enjoyed the whole movie.
Hmm? I would agree with you on most of that. I have one of those things actually is going to be in my negatives, and I'm going to keep that until we talk the negatives.
All right.
Gal Gadot's performance. To the people who are expecting me to eat some crow, I'm going to eat some crow. Gal, you've done an amazing job. We love and I actually love and appreciate your performance of Diana. I think you get the character way more than me and the internet gave you credit for. I think you've done your homework, and I think you actually have a love for the character too. So at that point, I think your performance is what we wanted from the most unlikeliest of sources. I mean, I still, like, a lot of people still go along the lines of the casting for it. And look, I was there too. Gal Gadot, despite military background, looks like a bikini model. And up until this point, her acting career was bikini model number 2 in Fast 7. So at that point, it's like, oh, well, that makes me like it's just so very much, especially with Wonder Woman, who I honestly believe, like for the people who made the arguments to me of, well, you didn't get that same judgment with Scarlett Johansson and Black Widow. Those are two completely different characters. Scarlett Johansson as Black Widow, again, I disagreed with. But if you look into who that character is, it makes sense for her to be hot, for her to be attractive, because it's part of her repertoire, it's part of her list of assets.
But by the same argument, though, compared to Gal Gadot, Scarlett Johansson had a pretty lengthy filmography before this.
She did, but
pretty much from her childhood to.
I'm not necessarily going down the resume route. I'm going along the lines of a lot of casting people arguments, which is she looked hotter than she was supposed to for Wonder Woman, kind of thing. And I've seen a lot of people make the comparison, and you can't. Natasha Romanoff and Diana Prince, there's different reasons for them to look the way they do, okay? So it's not necessarily an argument that we can go down. Diana Prince, though, yes, she does look hot, okay? I'm not even going to, when you edit this, put up a Justice League image, and she's supposed to look hot. But even in the animation, even in the comics, you get a muscular kind of vibe from her. Because she is an Amazon, and she has been trained and bred for war, kind of thing. And that's what I was worried about, is that Hollywood was going to be, well, Hollywood, and cast the bikini model to play the chick with the sword.
You're like worried about a Red Sonja type of scenario.
Yeah, pretty much. Because I think that did happen with the live action movie, didn't it?
Yeah, because
they hired a model to play the lead heroine.
Yeah,
and it just it doesn't even work. And so at that point, Gal, I think, has done an amazing job with what she had. I have no problem eating crow here. She is amazing. I want her as Wonder Woman now. I have no problem with her being Wonder Woman. I'm all for her. So I love the performance. I love Chris Pine's performance because I think as the kind of advisor role that Steve Trevor is, that's what he needed to be. Because the focus needed to be on Diana, and I think Chris Pine actually understood that in the role. Because here's the thing, Chris Pine has played leading men, a lot of leading men, and so at that point he could have easily said, "No, I am the leading man in this, but I'm going to steal the spotlight from Diana," and I don't think he did. I think he knew exactly when to step aside and give that spotlight to Diana, because that's what needs to happen. And I'm also going to give special props, and I can never remember the guy's name. He played Lupin.
Yeah. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it right, but it's like David Thewlis.
Thewlis. It's like Thewlis.
Yeah,
something like that.
It's kind of got a weird spelling.
As playing Ares.
Yeah.
So here's a big spoiler already, because we know why Diana goes to the world of men to hunt down Ares, but for a while there, they lead you down the wrong path as to who actually is Ares, and then you get the reveal. And I kind of got that, I actually didn't read a whole lot of the rumors and speculation that came out of this movie before the movie came out. And I like that he was cast as Ares. Because when you think about yes, the German general in this movie was heavily hinted that he was Ares. In fact, for a while, Dr. Poison was giving him stuff that I actually thought was maybe filled with the essence of Ares. And so at that point, he was slowly becoming him.
Yeah. For a good portion, I thought he was him at first, but then after a while, my suspicion started to focus to the Dr. Poison lady, thinking maybe she's Ares. I didn't actually expect.
But then you look at the reveal, and this is where I'm aiming. Is you look at that reveal, there is no better way that you can do that. And here's the thing, Ares is a canon villain in the Wonder Woman mythos. He is one part of her rogues gallery. A lot of her stuff is Greek based. So, I mean, she's prowled around with Hades. I think she's prowled around with Zeus. She, in fact, at one point becomes a goddess. The reveal that they did, where all you had seen at this point was a kindly diplomat who was meek, and then having that moment in the guard tower where he officially face turns. And he is Ares at that point. But he's also benevolent Ares. Like, I didn't do this just for wanton destruction. I believe that there's no saving them. And, like, having him go the compassionate route, and then going full villain, having the armor, having the weapons going everywhere, that was a really great turn, and I don't think anybody else but David Thewlis could have pulled that off. So I will also give major props to him for being able to do that. Because, I mean, remember, like, we had the bar scene that established him as a good guy. Then we had the secretary scene where he's like, he's not going to go to that gala, right? I love that concept. I also want to give credit to Hippolyta. I was really worried about who they were going to cast as Hippolyta. I really thought that Hollywood was going to go the Hollywood route, cast somebody like Julianne Moore, or, you know, one of the diva actresses to play Hippolyta. And I'm glad they didn't, because I do think that they would approach Hippolyta very diva-esque. And Hippolyta, while having some diva-esque moments, in this origin story, had to be someone else. Had to be a bit of a pragmatist. Because this is the origin story. This is why Diana left Themyscira. And up until that point, Hippolyta had been super protective of Diana. Did not want her involved in the ways of war. Did not want any of that. And so the performance there I thought was awesome. The story itself I thought was really well done. I do have one complaint that'll get into my negatives. We'll get there when we get there. But I do like the story. I do like a lot of the shots, especially in the combat scenes where the focus had to be on Diana. And I think it was well placed, but they knew just when to cut to Steve Trevor. And at that point, let Steve Trevor and his unit have a little bit of a moment and then cut into Diana, like, saving their butts kind of thing. Because this was basically a female Captain America movie. Mm-hmm. You know, Cap always saves the soldiers. Wonder Woman had to have those moments. And we needed to have, like, a legit female heroine on the scene. And who better than Wonder Woman? Let's see. The other thing, too, I will compliment, and I don't necessarily compliment it this much with DC Cinematic Universe movies, is the sound design. And here's my main problem. All of the movies up until that point had points where the sound got deafeningly loud. And that eventually grates on you. I love the Wonder Woman theme song. But when we saw Batman v Superman, one of my complaints was that theme song was blaring. Mm-hmm. It's like you couldn't even hear it. It was so loud. So you couldn't appreciate it. I had to hear it later to appreciate, like, how good it was. And so at this point, they knew how to do the sound design perfectly. So I'll also give them that credit. Okay, we've given so much positive here. It's time to get into the negative, Alex. And so, what negative do you have to say about Wonder Woman?
Oh, that's gonna be pretty tricky. I'd say mostly my negatives might lie in the first bit of the movie, just the first half, where she's still in her mystical land, and we kind of go through a lot of the plot points we see in a lot of movies like these, right? Mm-hmm. I'm trying to think exactly what, but it's sort of the I want to go, no you mustn't, and that stuff. And it's like, yeah, we've seen this a dozen times over. So, you know, it's the origin story pitfalls where we've seen so many origins at this point, we kind of can plot them up to a map and predict them beat by beat. I don't think it was terrible or egregious. It's just some of the points I've seen, like, man, I've seen this so many times.
See, I don't agree, and it's mainly because of the premise of Wonder Woman. You know, another thing I'll applaud Gal for is when Diana comes to the world of man, she's got a sense of naivete to her. She doesn't understand how things work because she's been on Themyscira her whole life. She's been sheltered. And I actually think that the Themyscira moments showed that she had been sheltered, but also showed essentially Diana's character, which is that even though she is naive, there is good and there is evil. And good and peace and love must always triumph over evil. Mm-hmm. And that's who Wonder Woman is. Like, Wonder Woman, like, she's killed. I mean, don't get me wrong, she's killed in the comics. But a lot of her enemies, there's a reason we don't have like repeats of Wonder Woman's Rogues Gallery, is because her Rogues Gallery gets pretty much taken care of. She always looks for love as being the answer instead of put him in jail.
Right.
Kind of thing. So I think, I get what you're saying. Like, it was slow and it was stuff that you've seen before. I hate to tell you this, but every superhero origin has that problem.
That's exactly my point.
But at the same time, for this one, I think it needed to happen. I think they needed to establish Diana's character because that's what people would fall in love with.
Yeah, I'm just thinking there's got to be other ways to do that besides having to go through the same beats of every origin story out there.
I don't know how you could have avoided it personally. That's me.
I'm not sure either. I must have.
I mean, in essence, they did cut it down.
Yeah, I'm sure they did. Obviously.
That's actually one of my beefs, but I'll get there. Other negatives.
Other negatives.
If you say them Nazis, I'm gonna laugh.
They're not even Nazis. They're just Germans.
No. This is World War I people. These are the servants of the Kaiser.
Kaiser. It's really hard to pick out too many problems right now. Why don't you go ahead?
Well, first of all, really quick cut. Okay, so we're back. I just wanted to make sure we were still recording. So, I do have a couple of beefs with this movie, and that's why I'm not saying it was the greatest thing ever, but I still think it's good. First of all, the origin story, while I think it was still okay, I really wish that we could have had the legitimate story, which, let me just kind of paint the difference here, okay? Everything pretty much happens as you expected. Steve Trevor comes, there's a threat. The difference is that Diana, in the movie, Diana volunteers, and she takes the stuff and goes. In the actual comic, Hippolyta says no, which lends credence to her character, saying, no, I don't want to give up my daughter. We will hold a tournament for who is the strongest among us to go with Steve Trevor. And Diana enters, unbeknownst to Hippolyta, and wins.
You wanted the tournament?
I wanted the tournament. I wanted her to win because I think that's still a good thing for... It helps Hippolyta's character to be that pragmatist, but at the same time it allows her to be a loving mother to accept the decision. Mm-hmm. And to not just play queen and say, nope, you shall not go. And also, the other thing, too, where a lot of the traditional weapons of Wonder Woman were housed in the tower as weapons of the gods, that's actually not the origin. The origin was that yes, the lasso was a weapon of the gods. I think the sword and shield might have been, but the outfit was also painted out to be that way, and no, that's not what they did. Steve Trevor is an American agent, and so they actually gave her the outfit as a symbol of respect to America, as she was wearing the colors of America, red, white, and blue.
Yeah, but then you get too much into Captain America at this point.
Well, I'm just saying I would much rather have had this be Hippolyta hands her the outfit, not that it's the armor of the gods, because I think that put an unfair assessment on what that could do. Because, I mean, it wasn't like it was stopping bullets, okay? Which is what we would expect armor of the gods to do. But I just think the tournament establishes more with Hippolyta's character, and it establishes more with Diana's character. It's a really great way to show Diana's sense of justice. And I'm not saying that the movie is hurt by not having it. It's my personal preference that they should have it, and here's why. Kind of thing. Is I think it does more for Hippolyta, and I think it does a lot more for Diana's character. Do I think we lost anything out of it? No. No, we really didn't. My second beef is actually the action scenes. And like I said, I love the action. But we got to see a little bit of Zack Snyder creep in.
You mean the film ramping?
Well, the endless... let me put it this way. When we got to an action scene, it was pretty much guaranteed that we were going to get about 6 or 7 slow motion moments.
Yeah.
We didn't need 6 or 7 slow motion moments. Maybe 3 or 4.
I don't think it was that egregious.
No, it was 300 levels.
It was not 300 levels.
Yeah, it was 300 levels.
Come on, this is not 300 in any way.
I timed a lot of them, dude. They were pretty long. And so I'm not saying it drugged the movie down, but there were a lot of moments where I'm like, I didn't need to see you slow motion sweep that guy. But I did need to slow motion see you cut through the wooden pillar. Okay? And so at that point, I'm just saying a lot of those could have been sped up, and I don't think they would have hurt. Kind of thing. So I do have that issue with the slow motion that was done egregiously in the action scenes. And, what was the other one I had? Crap. I think that was because I wanted the tournament. I wanted that, honestly. And I had problems with that. Oh, crap, there was another one that I had an issue with. Oh, I can't remember now. That might have been. I don't know. Let's go with that. Those two, because there's a third one in there that bothered me, and now it's not coming to mind. But yeah, so those were problems that I think took this down from being a great movie to just being a good movie. So like, I'm not saying it's okay or like it's good. I didn't have issues with this. I did not get bored throughout this whole experience. So we've gone into positives, we've gone into negatives, and we've already talked like numerous times, or for a lot of time. So let's kind of wrap things up. Final score, Alex, for Wonder Woman.
Well, all things added, I think overall fantastic movie with a great cast, great Wonder Woman as our lead, and a really solid direction by Patty Jenkins and a pretty solid script. That was.
I just remembered.
Oh, go ahead.
Okay, so back to the negatives. This is gonna seem like nitpicking too, but I did not like the whole concept of Wonder Woman being perceived as a god already. Because we got the whole, the god killer isn't the sword, it's you. And from there on, it's like, oh no, she unlocked her dormant god powers. Okay, guys, I get it. In the comics, she has been a goddess. Okay, she has. She's the goddess of truth. But one of the things that made Diana a cool character was that she was mortal. And she was human. And she could relate to people. When they pressed the God button, it makes it a little bit more difficult for me to see her relating to individuals. Okay? Granted, this did not hurt Diana's character. But I think it basically put her at a Superman-esque argument. Which is, like, remember, Batman v Superman was 80% of, he's a god. But no, he's a guy, just like every one of us. And I think that argument is going to come into play later on in other movies, and it shouldn't with Diana. Diana should be mortal and then eventually obtain godhood, as she did in the comics. And I think that's where they should have gone with it, and I didn't like the whole, she's a god right away! Hence why she's immortal, and that's why she looks at the same age as the picture that Bruce Wayne found. I literally could have worked around that way. I could have worked that around writing wise, in my own opinion. Like, I would have just simply said that Themyscira had a different kind of aging process, kind of thing. Like time elapsed faster there. And so, because I think they've actually even done that in the comics. I just don't like the whole concept that she's a god right off the bat. At the very, like, if she had been a demigod, I'm okay with that. But god levels, oh, okay, well, that's the only reason she beat Ares. She didn't beat him with love and compassion?
I thought she did. What
but the movie kind of paints it like, oh, but she's a god, so that's also why she's the god killer. Like, no. So, people are going to call that nitpicky. I have an issue with that. Anyway, back on to the final score.
Okay, so all things considered, with a really solid script here, we got a really solid director, excellent casting, excellent sound. I would give Wonder Woman a very solid 9.
Okay. For me, Wonder Woman would get an 8 out of 10. I think it's a very solid B effort. I think the biggest thing that we should take from this is, again, I'm not trying to trounce on Zack. Zack has gone through some hard times recently. But when Zack stepped aside, we got to see what other people could do with these characters, and it was better. And so at that point, I hope, like, if Zack comes back to this, which it's very much in doubt that he will, because it was, unfortunately his daughter took her own life. I hope he kind of takes this as a little bit of humility, like, and maybe even Warner Brothers needs to take this too, is that maybe he doesn't have all the answers. Joss Whedon didn't have all the answers, hence why we had numerous other directors. So at that point, I don't want people to take away that, like, I just hate Zack Snyder and that's what happened, but I think Warner Brothers puts too much reliance on it. And Joss Whedon didn't have all those answers, hence why we had numerous other directors running Thor individually, running Captain America individually, running Iron Man individually. This needs to be adhered to, I think, also with the DC Cinematic Universe. Let that one director tell the love story that he has for Superman. And then when they come together for the Justice League, let that director tell the love song for the Justice League. Kind of thing. So I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. Okay.
Oh, the joys of parenthood.
Yes. Okay. Okay, sorry about that. We were having a little bit of baby trouble. So how much money would we actually justify for people to spend on Wonder Woman?
I'd say it's worth any price of theatrical admission. I wouldn't say go for 3D or D-Box on this. I would just say, pay to see it at your own discretion, but it's worth the price of theater admissions.
I would pretty much say that. Like, matinee, I think primetime is fine too. This one in particular, I wouldn't mind an Atmos experience. I would love to hear the sound design from Atmos, just to see if it gets better or worse. Like, if maybe that's the problem I had. I saw Batman v Superman in Atmos.
Yeah.
So maybe that's why I had... And Man of Steel, I saw that way too. But I didn't see Suicide Squad that way. So I would at least like to see if maybe it gets worse in that regard. But I would probably recommend it just to hear, like, the sword tings off of an Atmos experience might be cool. But mostly matinee, primetime, take friends.
Yeah.
I honestly think it would be awesome. I think that is actually going to go ahead and do it for Wonder Woman. So thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you guys so much for all you guys do for our videos. Remember, we are still pushing for 100 subscribers, so continue to recommend us to your social media outlets and let us know what you would like to see us do when we hit 100 subscribers. And, we'll see you guys in a little bit, because we've also got to take care of our top 3 movies of 2017
so far.
We'll see you guys then.